day 3. I had to remember, I had to think of what day it was because it's so late. It is currently 12:14 a.m. and I'm finally back from the site of the Miami Open, Hard Rock Stadium. But yes, we're back, and what a day it was. I think today was more of a work day than a tennis day. As I've mentioned before, I'm here with a press pass, so I do a lot of things behind the scenes other than watch tennis. I record practices, I go to press conferences, and do all sorts of other things around the tournament that's not just watching tennis. So today was packed with a lot of that, but I always fit in the tennis, so I just feel so drained today because I was on site early this morning around 9 and it's now 12:15 a.m. So long day, very, very long day, but very fun day too. Started the day on the practice courts, and I love to watch practices at these events. I think every time I watch a new practice, I'm watching it in a different light. As someone who's an amateur tennis player, it's really nice to see how professional athletes practice, and different athletes are so different. So I was at Carlos Alcaraz's practice session today. He was practicing with Francisco Cerundolo, and it was structured kind of how these practices go, especially the ones that are open to the public. It was very much, you start with a warm-up of the ground strokes, then you warm up your volleys, overheads, and then it goes into rallies. They either play a set and then they'll play a tie-break set. So it's very structured. It's kind of the same thing. Especially when they're playing with another player and, people are there to watch and, either Tennis TV is recording it or something like that. It's kind of very structured and partly for the fans as well. So I definitely saw some of that, but I also got to watch Iga Swiatek practice, and I also got to watch Jasmine Paolini, and their practices were a little bit more private. I mean, technically anyone could have gone to watch their practices, but the crowds were smaller, and it was fun watching them because they were definitely working on some specific skills. Iga was working on a lot of return of serve, which is really fun to watch because she just drilled it for, her practice session was like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and she just kept drilling those. And then watching Jasmine Paolini, it was a lot of volleys and a lot of, serves and things like that. So it was interesting watching the players who were there really practicing certain skills and, clearly preparing for the match that they're going to be playing later today. Speaking of which, we're going to get into the weather of what day 4 is going to be like and if there's even going to be any tennis to be seen. But other than the practices, I got to be in a lot of press conferences today. Was in Daniil's pre-tournament press conference, and Daniil Medvedev is the most fun person to listen to in a press conference. He's so insightful. He's very honest. He doesn't really hide anything. I think when people ask him technical questions, he actually answers the question versus kind of, giving a bland answer or something generic. He actually goes into detail. So that was a fun press conference to be in. And I was in a few other post-match press conferences, got to talk to Taylor Townsend today and Gael Monfils. And later on, probably if not after the tournament or maybe later on tomorrow, depending on my work schedule, I should be posting those interviews to all of our social media channels, and I'll post where it ends up. The full videos will probably be on YouTube. And then clips and things like that will be on Instagram and Threads. But I will update you so you can sort of get to know those players. I think part of Ground Pass's mission, other than helping casual tennis fans learn more about tennis, I think part of that is also learning about the players who are on tour, and not just the big names like Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner and Iga Swiatek and Coco Gauff, but learning about the other players that make up the tour. There's a top 100. You've got Taylor Townsend, who I interviewed today, Katie Boulter, who I watched play today. I think they're a really great group of players that are up and coming that are worth knowing. And I think it makes the tournaments more exciting to watch. And you're not just watching for the 3 or 4 matches or 5 matches or however long the big names are playing, but you can watch a full tournament and follow storylines throughout the whole year. I think that's the fun part for me. In tennis is learning about the new up-and-coming player and then seeing how their season goes and if they were able to achieve their goals that season. But did that, and then came time for the tennis. I got to actually watch some matches today. I watched Katie Boulter play against Brenda Fruhvirtova. She is a 16-year-old young Czech phenom. And, one day I'm going to do a whole episode of a podcast about young Czech WTA players, because there are so many of them. I think there's some sort of system in Czechia where they all just get built and trained to be these perfect tennis players. But there are a lot of young Czech players in the WTA and a couple on the ATP as well. And Brenda's one of them, and she was doing really great against Katie Boulter. But unfortunately is another player who has been affected by the heat and humidity, and she had to retire in the second set after she had taken a medical timeout in the first set, and Katie Boulter is through to the second round. Then went over and caught up with Taylor Townsend's match. Great win over Elise Mertens, who is the 25th seed. It is Taylor Townsend's first top 30 win since 2023. Really big win for her. I got to talk to her in press, and she talked about how part of her goal is to, go up the rankings, be in the top 50, and not have to go through qualifying for all of these events, which she still has to. She's not yet a player who can get direct entry into the main draw and has to qualify for all of these events. Saw that. Saw a little bit of Martín Landaluz. He's a young Spanish player, has the same agent as Carlos Alcaraz. He won the junior US Open in 2022. So he's definitely an up-and-comer. He got a wild card into this event, and he won his first ATP main draw match today. So that was good. Again, it's really great to follow these young upcoming players and see where they end up. What else did I watch today? So much tennis, so little time. I did want to stay for the night session because Victoria Azarenka was playing against Peyton Stearns, and it was just a match I wanted to see. Peyton Stearns had what I think is the match of the Indian Wells tournament, at least on the WTA side, against Aryna Sabalenka. And Aryna won in the end, but it was a very hard fought match. Really great quality. Peyton Stearns, I said at the time, is such a big stadium player that I think she really does thrive in these matches, which is why I wanted to see her play against Victoria Azarenka at the Miami Open. And it definitely did live up to that expectation. It was, I think Peyton Stearns was serving for the first set, but Victoria Azarenka was able to win the first set by breaking her. and Peyton Stearns just fought back and took the second set, and then, we had a match. It went into a deciding third, and unfortunately, Peyton Stearns was dealing with a little bit of a shoulder injury. She had a medical timeout, and she lost the match in 3. Good win for Victoria Azarenka, because there were times where Peyton Stearns was just really hitting her off the court, but she was able to power through, and that was my day mostly. I definitely got to see some other matches. Got to see Frances Tiafoe practice today, which was fun. Ostapenko winning her match. She was playing Laura Siegemund, and if anyone knows who Laura Siegemund is and who Jelena Ostapenko is, the sort of fireworks and just fun time that match was going to be. So that was definitely worth a watch, and I hope that's what Ground Pass can bring to you, because those two names are such, they're names that if you're big into tennis, and you follow them because they're just so exciting and fun to watch, and it can bring fireworks into the court, but they're not household names. Jelena Ostapenko has won a French Open, so she's a little bit more known. Laura Siegemund, not so much, but you might remember her from her match against Coco Gauff at the US Open last year, which was a little bit of a fireworks match. But yeah, so hopefully we can bring you these names and you could sort of keep tabs on them and watch them throughout the year, because that's the fun thing about tennis. Unlike most other sports, tennis is always happening, except for maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow, the weather in Miami is not looking great. We might have a washout tomorrow and most of the day on Saturday. But how these things usually go is we might just go super late into the night on both days, or Sunday will turn out to be an absolutely packed day in the schedule, because they're just going to have to get all the matches that were rained out completed. So stay tuned to Ground Pass on site. We'll keep you posted on our recap tomorrow to see if any tennis is played. And find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us on Instagram, Threads, we're on X, YouTube now. We're everywhere you would like us to be. Leave us a review with your questions, and we will definitely answer them. Bye.